was the last time, the last time.
What happened to the girl in this photo is terrifying.
In 1961, a young girl was spotted floating in the sea. Crew members of a very large ship decided to pull her aboard. The girl's name was Terry, and how she came to be lost at sea is shocking. Turns out she had been aboard another boat with her whole family, and the captain of that boat attacked them all. To get rid of her, she was just left out to sea. They thought she would eventually drown. But Terry actually made it to a lifeboat, and she sat in that lifeboat for 4 days with no food or water. When they found her, she was severely burnt by the sun, and the sun also bleached her hair bright blonde, but she did end up surviving. For more 7 Sins Crime, remember to hit the plus button.
This woman's blood was so toxic that it made several nurses become ill and pass out. This was 31-year-old Gloria Ramirez, and she was suffering from late-stage cervical cancer. The night of February 19th, 1994, she arrived at the hospital as she was having heart palpitations. When the doctors tried to sedate her, they noticed an oily sheen covering her body from her blood, and when they withdrew the blood, they noticed a garlic ammonia-like odor. For whatever reason, the blood made nurses pass out one by one, and those who didn't pass out suffered from headaches, muscle spasms, and shortness of breath. This was not just some placebo effect. This was so serious that by the end of all of this, 23 nurses had become ill and 5 of those had to be hospitalized. Not long after, Gloria was pronounced dead. They actually investigated on her body for over 2 months. However, they did have some theories, but no one truly knows what happened that day.
Do you notice something kind of off about this mannequin? For anyone who's familiar with the legend, she is known as La Pascualita. The mannequin has stood in the window of a Mexican bridal shop for more than 90 years, but when she was first placed there, patrons noticed something kind of strange. The detail work on this mannequin was unusual. She was noted with eyebrow hair, veins, and even discoloration around her mouth and ears. But that suspicion soon grew to horror as patrons started to notice that she bore a striking resemblance to the owner's deceased daughter, Pascuala. Pascuala was actually set to be married herself, but ended up dying in a tragedy before her wedding day. Shortly after her death, the mannequin appeared in the window and the legend was born that these were the preserved remains of the owner's daughter. But the most compelling evidence has always been the hands. The hands are shown with wrinkles, they have veins, they even have lifelike fingernails, which is unlike any mannequin I have ever seen. The question remains to this day, could this really be the shop owner's daughter?
Two words, buckle up. 29-year-old Christine Chubbuck did something on live television that traumatized an entire community. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. Christine was hired at a news station called WXLT-TX, and she was later given her own show called Suncoast Digest, where she talked about recent crimes. A little bit about her, she was severely depressed and tried to unalive herself in 1970, but failed. She even made several comments on air about taking her own life, and her news partner just awkwardly moved on. On the morning of July 15th, 1974, she confused her coworkers by saying that she had to open up for Suncoast Digest, which she normally did not do.
The most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first in living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide.
She then drew a weapon, unalived herself, and the broadcast rapidly went black.
She's got to die, and I've got to die, or girls like that are going to die. And that's when I decided I'm going to murder my mother. I knew a week before she died I was going to kill her. And she went out to a party, she got soused, she came home, went to sleep. I was woken up by that, came out, I walked up to her bed, she's laying there reading a paperback, as many thousands of nights before. And she said, "Oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now." Shit. I looked at her, I said, "No." I said, "Good night." And I knew I was going to kill her. You know, and I'm so cold, it's so hard. And that's the first time in 10 years I've looked at it that way. I mean, that intensely, that honestly. It hurts, because I'm not a lizard, I'm not from under a rock. I came out of her vagina, see? Came out of my mother. And in a rage, I went right back in. For 7 years, she said, I haven't had sex with a man because of you, my murderous son. This is one of our arguments. I cut off her head. And I humiliated her corpse. So there.
This man died in 1841. And yet his head is still perfectly preserved. It once belonged to Diego Alves, although it still technically does. And between 1836 to 1840, he killed 70 people. But at the time, they didn't even know these people were being murdered. That's because of how he would do it. In the capital of Portugal, there was a giant aqueduct that would essentially connect one side of the land, the rural side, to the city. Essentially like a giant bridge. Therefore, many farmers would cross this regularly so they could sell their goods in the city. Diego knew this, so he would hide on the aqueduct at night and then jump out when the farmers were passing. He would rob them and then proceed to push them over the side of the aqueduct, and they would fall 213 feet to their death. For a long time, authorities assumed that these people were jumping willingly. But once 70 people started to jump from the same spot, it became clear that there was a pattern. He was eventually caught and executed in February of 1841. And at the time, scientists were intrigued to see how a seemingly normal-looking person could commit such horrific crimes without any remorse. So after execution, they removed his head so they could study his brain. Although, at the lack of medical advancements and technology, they weren't able to do much. But it was put in a jar of formaldehyde, and it's still on display to this day at the University of Lisbon's Faculty of Medicine.
Mi asesinato fue captado por cámaras. Soy Tatiana Spitzner y esta es mi trágica historia. Yo era abogada y mi familia me consideraba carismática. Tenía 5 años de casada con Luis Felipe Mambail, pero con el tiempo, Luis me maltrataba. Sufría de violencia doméstica. La única que lo sabía era mi amiga, y habló lo que sabía cuando ya estaba muerta. Un día le pedí el divorcio a Luis y quedamos de seguir conviviendo. Días después, exactamente el 22 de julio del 2018, salimos para convivir y al regresar en carro por la noche empezó a tratarme mal, a subirme la voz, a jalonearme y me asusté. Me bajé del carro en el estacionamiento para tratar de escapar, pero él me obligó a entrar al elevador y me iba golpeando mientras subíamos al 5º piso para ir a mi apartamento. Menos de 20 minutos después, él baja en el elevador y recoge en la acera mi cuerpo ensangrentado y sin vida. Pero en realidad, Luis me quitó la vida antes de tirarme. La autopsia confirmó que fui asfixiada. La policía tiene esas imágenes. Fueron 15 minutos que no se pudieron mostrar al público y que son evidencia de todos los hechos. Yo no pude salvar mi vida, fue demasiado tarde. Si tú sufres de abuso doméstico, salte. Mi mejor amiga me asesinó por unas fotos y luego se presentó a mi funeral. Soy Anel Báez, una chica mexicana, y esta es mi historia. Mi mejor amiga se llamaba Erandi Elizabeth y éramos inseparables. A los 16 años estudiábamos en la preparatoria. Un día inesperado mi amiga y yo tuvimos un tropiezo en nuestra relación. Ese día yo publiqué en mi perfil de Facebook unas fotos de ella, pero nunca pensé que le ofendería tanto. Nunca haría algo malo que pudiera lastimar a mi amiga Elizabeth. Ella nunca me perdonó porque pensó que las fotos eran inapropiadas y que, según ella, presentaban situaciones comprometedoras con uno de sus compañeros de clases. Mi amiga empezó a publicarme espantosos mensajes en Twitter. Uno de ellos decía: no digo nada, pero en mi mente ya terminé contigo cruelmente, y como ese, varios mensajes fueron publicados. El día del crimen mi amiga llegó repentinamente a mi casa. Me invitó a comer un helado. Yo pensé que quería disculparse por todo, y la dejé pasar a mi casa. Después de hablar un rato, ella se dirigió a la cocina y yo me quedé acostada viendo la tele. De repente sentí cómo me apuñaló por la espalda 60 veces hasta dejarme sin vida. Luego, como si nada, ella trató de limpiar la escena del crimen. Después de que mi amiga cometió el crimen, fue a su casa y publicó en su Twitter: Dios mío, ¿qué hice? Eras mi mejor amiga y te amaba. Las horas que estuvo presente en mi velorio estuvo callada y con la mirada perdida. No se acercó nunca a verme. En mi caso no se hizo justicia. Mi amiga alcanzó tan solo una pena máxima de 7 años por ser menor de edad. Espero que mi historia ayude para que las amistades de todos los menores de edad sean supervisados por sus padres, así como las redes sociales que manejan. La confianza y comunicación deben estar presentes para evitar casos tan terribles como el mío.
This guy altered his body in Mexico so he could become the perfect serial killer. This included having gastric bypass surgery when he was not overweight, just so he could focus on the hunt and not get distracted by hunger. He altered his teeth with unnecessary dental work and even possibly altered his fingerprints. He had several nose jobs, and he injected Botox in areas such as his armpits. This was so he would sweat less and decrease the chance of leaving his DNA at crime scenes. I'm talking about Israel Keys. And this guy didn't care who he killed, so there was no typical victim profile. He also often did his horrible deeds far away from home. He rented the cars he would use. He only used cash. He often wore disguises. And he wouldn't use his cell phone on his escapades. This guy killed people all over the entire country. I'm talking Alaska, Washington, Vermont, New York, and probably a lot of other places. He called Dennis Rader a wimp. Yeah, Dennis Rader, the serial killer known as BTK. It is believed that Israel Keys ended the lives of at least 11 people between 2001 and 2012. But that number is probably a lot higher, and he even alluded to that several times. I mean, he was on this spree for over 10 years. He loved hunting animals since he was a child, and he often spoke out about enjoying killing anything with a heartbeat. He just loved it so much that he eventually moved on from killing animals to people. At one point, he served in the US Army, and he said it was then that he decided he would start a life of crime. He also loved road tripping all over the country and leaving kill kits everywhere. That way, if he was ever in the area, he would have easy access to one. When he was finally caught in March of 2012, he never gave details about what he did to the people whose lives he ended. All he said is that he committed these crimes for himself as entertainment. Besides ending people's lives, he committed different crimes. This included breaking into people's houses, bank robberies, and burglaries. He said he only got caught because he got sloppy and broke his own rules. On December 2nd of 2012, he ended his own life at the Anchorage Correctional Complex in Alaska. At the time, he was 34 years old. I can't believe I just recently heard about this guy. I don't know why he isn't more talked about. But tell me, have you ever heard of him before?
When I looked at that picture, I thought, wow, he looks like a great dad. I was wrong. On August 7, 2021, Abby Coleman was packing up for her family to go on a camping trip. Unbeknownst to her, her husband, Matthew, had already loaded up the kids into the car and left. He left Abby at home. She looked outside the window and was like, did he really just leave with the kids? She phoned him, texted him, nothing. Abby was frustrated and confused. But at that moment, Abby didn't see Matthew as a threat to her kids or to himself, and she actually thought he'd eventually return home. No official missing report was filed. At 8 p.m. that same day, Matthew checks himself and the kids into a hotel in Rosarito. By the following day, Abby was extremely worried, as she should have been. She woke up to her family not back yet. It wasn't like Matthew to be gone that long. And then she thought it wasn't like him to do any of this at all. Still unable to contact her husband, she phones the police. An officer came by the family's home and took an official report. The officer suggested trying to locate Matthew through the Find My iPhone locator app, which is an app where you could find a specific iPhone. She did as the officer said, and she located him. She saw that he was in Rosarito, Mexico. With the missing persons now believed to be in Rosarito, Mexico, the case was handed over to the FBI. The next day, a ranch worker, along with his dog, discovered 2 bodies on his ranch. They were children. This is a graphic description, please be advised. The children's bodies were covered with puncture wounds, at least a dozen on each of them. Authorities said the weapon was believed to have been a sharp wooden stake, which was found at the scene. The 2 children were Kaleo, 2 years old, and Arga, 10 months old. They were Matthew and Abby's children. Hours later, Matthew was intercepted back at the border, attempting to cross back to the United States. He was arrested by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents. Matthew admitted to the brutal killing of his 2 children, where he referenced conspiracy theories from the Illuminati. He told authorities that killing his children was the only course of action that would save the world because his wife possessed serpent DNA, and she had passed it on to the children. I don't know what to say about that. Matthew Taylor Coleman was charged with 2 counts of foreign first-degree murder. His trial date has not been released. Rest in peace, you 2 beautiful kids.
This town is so haunted they had to permanently close it to the public. This is Dudleytown, Connecticut. Dudleytown, Connecticut is a haunted, abandoned town in Cornwall, Connecticut, and has a creepy history. Visitors who have explored there say that once they enter, It's otherworldly in there. Creepy. First of all, it's reportedly completely silent. You can't hear birds, animals, bugs, nothing. A researcher compared entering the heart of Dudleytown to standing inside a recording studio booth. Another common complaint from visitors is that a lot of the photos they take in Dudleytown won't develop, but as soon as they leave, their cameras will work just fine. Which makes sense, as I had a really hard time finding really any photos of Dudleytown when I was researching. The creepy legend of the town is years ago, the Dudley family fled to the US after one of their family members was taken care of after plotting against King Henry VIII. They settled in Connecticut and the bad luck followed. Residents of Dudleytown began suffering a series of devastating crop failures and mental illness was rampant in the village. There were countless mysterious disappearances within the village and all-around chaos overwhelmed Dudleytown. By the early 1900s, it was completely abandoned. For fans of the Conjuring films based on paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, the two visited Dudleytown and outright declared that it was extremely haunted and controlled by something terrifying. Investigators agreed that Dudleytown is some kind of a portal. But here's where it goes from spooky to downright bizarre. The owners, the Dark Entry Forest Association, closed Dudleytown to the public and don't do anything to dispel the rumors. In fact, they refuse to be interviewed for the most part, and the owners go to great lengths to conceal their identities. On top of that, if you are caught trespassing in Dudleytown, you will be heavily prosecuted. This is so strange to me. We see so many other ghost towns around the world, and usually they keep these places open for tourism. You know, profit off the history and the spookiness. But for some reason, this association wants to keep people out of Dudleytown altogether. A paranormal researcher said there's some kind of secret that they are keeping there, and they want people to stay out. What are your thoughts? This has been requested a couple times. Has anyone ever been? Or are there any towns by you that you find to be really creepy?
Big deal. Yeah. Okay, yes. Are you ready? I'm coming.
Is she trying to leave? She's going to. Oh, there's two in there. One is ours. That's ours.
Okay. Do not let her out that door. So she shows no signs. You can't check for hemorrhaging. What is HCG?
It's a hormone that is secreted by the placenta only.
Okay.
And if there's a baby in there, the HCG is what the hormone that mandates going and getting the nutrients and bringing it to baby.
Okay.
So it's in mama's blood, mama's urine, mama's everything.
Okay.
And it stays up for 6 weeks.
Okay. All right.
It's taken off. You don't want no part.
Huh?
You don't want no part of this. He took it off. He's the OBGYN. Yeah, I was going to get called up for resuscitating the baby.
Oh, what did we step into? Oh, it's interesting. So,
Kidnapping almost.
I think it's going to be that.
Yeah, because we've had Lamar County called here too. Lamar County, I talked to Texarkana, and then Bowie County.
So when I'm talking, they're talking. I don't understand. They've never done this before. Why are they keeping me? I'm like, I was like, hey, I'm just the ER talking. I said, I don't know why you're not up.
Okay. She's in there. She refuses to have a vaginal check to make sure she's not hemorrhaging. They've done an ultrasound and HCG, and it doesn't show that she's been pregnant. Okay. They have the placenta.
Where's she?
She is in the room. She
You're
is
not letting her leave.
no.
Authorities make their way to Taylor's room, where an unbelievable truth is about to be revealed.
Hey, okay.
Thank God. She's on the phone now with her boyfriend, so I'll try to sidetrack her a little bit. He's an hour away.
I can sit with her.
Well, that's what Chad wants to do.
Just talk with the ER doctor. They took blood work, HCG levels, which is a hormone. It's not showing she was pregnant. And they're saying that the placenta, they can send the placenta off for test and whether it comes back to her or not.
Soy el asesino de Cumbres, el sujeto que asesinó a los hermanos menores de mi novia en Monterrey. Soy Diego Santoy, y esta es la historia del crimen. Desde el 2006, estoy acusado por el asesinato de los dos hermanos de mi novia, quienes tenían 7 y 3 años de edad, y vivían en Monterrey, Nuevo León. Por el crimen recibí una sentencia definitiva de 71 años, 7 meses, y 27 días de prisión. El doble crimen ocurrió el 2 de marzo de 2006 en la casa de mi novia Erika Peñacos. De acuerdo con las declaraciones del juicio, los niños fueron asesinados en su casa, después que yo la visité para intentar dialogar y así reanudar nuestra relación. De acuerdo con los testimonios, yo enloquecí cuando Erika decidió que ya no quería ser mi novia. 17 años atrás, cubierto con un pasamontañas y guantes de látex, trepé por las paredes del inmueble hasta que logré ingresar a la residencia. Según la versión de Erika, una vez dentro, me escabullí hasta la habitación de ella para intentar convencerla de que no me abandonara, pero ante su negativa, asesiné a su hermana de 3 años de edad, María Fernanda Peñacos, y a Erika Sur, de 7 años. Antes de huir, intenté degollar a Erika y secuestrar a la empleada doméstica. Luego tomé un coche de la propiedad y me fui de la entidad federativa junto con mi hermano. 4 días después fuimos localizados y detenidos en Oaxaca, mientras viajábamos en un autobús con dirección a Guatemala. Tras el aseguramiento, mi hermano y yo fuimos trasladados de regreso a Monterrey. En una primera versión de los hechos, yo declaré que mi ex, Erika, también era responsable por la muerte de los niños. Afirmé que ella había matado a sus hermanitos porque los odiaba. Además, di a conocer que yo solo le ayudé a asesinarlos, ya que ella me había presionado para cometer el crimen, aludiendo a una falta de amor hacia ella. Yo estoy dispuesto a pagar por lo mío, pero por lo que ella hizo no. Y eso mismo se lo dije a ella, pero me respondió: mis manos están limpias, al igual que mi alma. Después, volví a modificar mi testimonio. Señalé que me había involucrado sentimentalmente con mi suegra, lo que había ocasionado un ataque de ira en Erika, que la llevó a asesinar a sus hermanos. Me casé en prisión con una de las fundadoras de mis grupos de admiradores. Por su parte, Erika contrajo nupcias y ahora vive en el estado de Guanajuato.
In the following video, a mother and her 2 children are standing outside their house after seeing something very alarming. They had just come back from walking outside when something on the 2nd floor window catches their attention. The family couldn't help but record this on the off chance that no one would believe them. Using a flashlight they had brought along to their nightly walk, the family shines the window and sees this.
Alright, my daughter's room is up there, and we keep seeing something. Alright, put your flashlight up. Alright, flash it up there. Oh, now it's gone. Put your flashlight down. Let's see if it'll do it again. Alright, put it up, hurry. Oh.
It appears that each time the light isn't on the window, the blinds move on their own. But if you look closely, you'll see that no fingers can be seen opening the blinds, let alone a figure behind the shades. The space appears to be empty, as if no one is there. Now the children are definitely spooked by this incident, but not so much the mother, given her calm demeanor in the video. It could be that this odd occurrence has happened before, and thus explaining why she doesn't seem that fazed. But whether or not that's so, what happens next further demonstrates this incident as being truly odd. Have a look.
Alright, let's see if it'll do it one more time, baby. Put your flashlight up. Alright, let's go inside. Let's go inside. Let's go inside. Alright, here's the upstairs. I just want to show you guys. No one behind the door. Here's my daughter's room. It's a little messy, I'm sorry, but just to show you. Here's the closet. I just want to show you there's nobody behind. Nobody in the closet. Here's the window right over here. Nobody. Not a single person up here.
The mother checks the room and shows that no one's there. Even before entering the space, she appears to be certain that no one is up there, as if she's already experienced this before. It goes without saying, but viewers find this to be pretty strange. If no one had been inside the room, then how were the blinds opening up? And why is it that each time the window is shined, they immediately close back up? With no further context or updates on this odd occurrence, it seems that we may never know what exactly was going on in this video. But as always, you be the judge on what was captured in this footage.